Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Francis Pinola. I'm a personal development and recovery coach based outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And today I'm back with a video, and this time it's about adapting to change. And this concept of this video came up personally in my own life because, things don't always go according to plan. Life is going to throw curveballs at you. Different things are going to arise, different situations, different circumstances, and you're going to have to adapt. And I always think about how I can use even my own experience, especially to, enlighten others or to help others through similar circumstances or to develop themselves. And one of the first things that I thought about, with adapting to different changes, that's really what life is about, right? With the nature of impermanence, if you're familiar with, from Eastern Buddhist philosophy, that life is always going to change, right? And that part of personal development really isn't about perfection. It's about refinement. And even if you develop these different skills, really what that enables you to do is to be able to put these skills to use in these different situations. It doesn't mean things are always going to go smoothly, like, oh, once I work in all these different areas and different things, everything's going to go according to plan, going to nail stuff the first try. That's not how things work. But you will be able to develop the skills. That way you'll get in general better results and be able to overcome challenges, be able to deal with change, be able to adapt to different situations, whatever arises, through these different skills that you developed, right? So a couple things, I kind of made a little bit of notes for thinking about. It's really about refinement and learning how to recognize and develop the skills that you have. And one of the reasons that this came up in the first place with especially, personal development is a book that inspired me was actually I read this a little while ago, Gerard, Egan, The Skilled Helper, Problem Management and Opportunity Development Approach to Helping. And really, a lot of these skills that I learned a lot of these things in order to be able to help myself and then learn how to teach some of this stuff to other people. And, this got online used through Amazon. Apparently it was a Goodwill book, but either way, right? So it's about learning how to identify what the different problems are, what different situations, what different changes, learning how to develop opportunities, recognize your resources, your strengths, your skills, in yourself or in other people if you're helping somebody else, and how to put them to use. So, for example, in my own life recently, I got another full-time full-time job, which I wasn't really looking to do, but it's something that kind of needed to occur, right? So in recognizing how can I, go about getting another full-time employment, what is it I'm looking for an employer? What is it that I would like to do? How would I like to use my skill set? These different things, recognizing, my ability to build resumes, to interview, to, have all my different credentials and different things I need ready. Even down to references, right? Staying in contact with people throughout your professional life, so that way you have different references that can, speak to people on your behalf and talk to them and vouch for your character and different things like that, right? So all these are little different parts, but that add up to the whole piece of, getting a different employer, right? Or whether you're changing careers, to learning with resumes how to structure a resume. I've watched videos literally on, there's a really cool video, well, I guess it can be cool, on hiring managers and what they're actually looking at in a resume. And they actually wore eye trackers. And really, they were all just looking at just the job titles. They barely spent any time. So you're spending all this time writing these beautiful, wonderful sentences throughout your resume. That's not really what they're looking at. So kind of using the knowledge that we have, if this is on average how hiring managers are looking at resumes, let me structure my resume in such a way for what they're looking for, right? That's an example just for the same thread. It flows throughout everything that you're doing. How can I learn more about whatever it is I'm trying to do? Whether it's building a resume, whether it's going to an interview, right? I've been on so many interviews throughout my life. I think I interview pretty well. Try and make good eye contact, you smile, handshake, all that different stuff, but when you're actually in the interview, one of the things that's going to help you is experience. And I remember I had a job interview that I didn't do fantastic on some years back. And I remember sitting in my car afterwards and I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, I didn't do perfect on that job interview, and I was kind of, being hard on myself because I expect to keep, getting better at whatever skill it is. That's why I'm into like something like personal development. And I thought to myself, well, hey, how would you become a master at job interviews? Well, it seems to me, I mean, you could read books and all that, but experience is really what's going to help you. So if I'm going to be a person, suppose I want to write books about, going on job interviews, how to interview well, I would probably need 1,000 job interviews, 10,000 job interviews, however many I might need, right, to be able to achieve that experience. So a person who's, for whatever reason, I probably wouldn't want to go through on 10,000 job interviews, but the person who's done that has more knowledge, has more experience over time, to be able to handle these different situations. So I'm a big fan in experiential learning, right? A lot of what we're doing is just experiencing different things and then refining that process. So from the first job interview to the 100th job interview to the 1,000th job interview to the 10,000th, you're just getting better and you're finding these different things. Early on, it's maybe making these big changes, but over time, you're just really refining the process. Whether it's someone who builds, tables all day, right? Your first table versus 1,000 table, 10,000 table, they're all a table, right? But it's these small changes and refinement until you really master whatever it is that you're trying to do. And to me, that's really what personal development is about. So that, getting another full-time job, because honestly, it helps with like medical benefits and all that stuff. I like having benefits by having some other employer besides having my own, side business, right? So, but whether it's employment, whether it's a relationship, whether it is a hobby, whether it's working on something like playing an instrument, whatever it is, it's just refining this process, learning these different things over time. But this other common thread of just adapting to change and that being able to use these different skills. So suppose I've had employers before that they close down sites, companies close, right? So change could be inevitable. Just because things are going smooth the way they are does not mean that things won't arise. So when I'm encounter these different situations, being able to recognize my opportunities, to use my skills, to rely on these tools I've developed is definitely beneficial. And now another thing when it comes to different stress of different situations, right? So something that I use, another book that inspired me in person, inspired me. Now that was Gerard Egan that wrote The Skilled Helper. Another book is actually, well, he has a lot of different books, but this guy, Albert Ellis, right there, he invented rational motive behavioral therapy. He's like a godfather of cognitive behavioral therapy. But even when I'm going through these different situations, right? Suppose all of a sudden you have to move, and someone in my family is going through a place that they were renting. All of a sudden the guy he's selling the place or what have you. So suddenly, they have to move pretty quickly. And even if you're able to find the other place and hire the moving company, do all these different things, that's still stress, right? And that's still also skills. Have you ever hired moving companies? Or if you're trying to move on your own, you're not hiring somebody, are you familiar with moving, renting a truck, how to pack different things, less besides the physical ability to move these different furniture and all this different stuff, right? To me, everything is a skill, whether it's moving from house to house or getting employment, whatever it is that you're working on. But when you're going through these different things, how you deal with these different stressors. And to me, like Albert Ellis, and learning how to be rational in my thinking and be rational in my feeling, my emotive behaviors as well, has definitely been beneficial because, there are different stressors, and I can't completely eliminate the anxiety of the unknown, sadness over a situation that had to change, these different things. I can use these different tools I've learned through REBT and cognitive behavioral therapy to ask myself these different questions of basically why it is I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, right? And sometimes I can address these different thoughts, these different perspectives of why it is I'm stressed, and address it that way, as well as using different breathing techniques, different progressive muscle relaxation to be able to manage the stress in the moment, because life is stressful. And that's why I really wanted to emphasize that, even with personal development and especially in recovery coaching, I think people in recovery already know that life is just going to have its ups ups and downs. It's changes. It's going to throw curveballs at you, depending on what you've experienced in life. I think most people in recovery have experienced a lot of bumps in the road, so they're familiar with that process. But even someone who's just trying to, develop themselves professionally, personally, socially, emotionally, whatever it is, that to learn that we're going to encounter different challenges and different stressors, and it's okay to have some self-compassion and to work on your perspectives and beliefs about yourself, about other people, about life, to really think these beliefs through about how you feel about these different things. And a big realization I had for myself was that really what it is, and this comes from actually, I was sending out different resumes, and I wasn't expecting to get some responses so fast and people trying to hire me. And then so literally I had multiple interviews, and everything I'd read said, hey, take all the interviews. But then I felt bad having to tell somebody no, that I was going with another employer. So literally I'm asking myself, what is my belief about this situation that's causing me to be upset or to feel anxiety? And I was like, I don't like letting people down. So I realized, okay, it's not about, I'm more concerned about how my actions impact others than myself, if that makes sense. And I think that's not necessarily the worst belief to have, but it's something like, this is personal development, right? So if I'm able to recognize, okay, sometimes I maybe overly care too much about letting somebody down. And so I ask myself the rational question, well, is it rational to believe that you'll never let anybody down? No. Okay. So it's almost inevitable. Just like change is inevitable, it's inevitable that I'm going to do things, whether on purpose, by accident, what have you, that is going to disappoint someone, whether it's an organization, a person, that it's something that can't be completely avoided in life. So, right. So that's the belief, is that these things are going to occur. Now, in personal development vein, maybe the next time I don't shotgun a bunch of resumes out just in case I get a bunch of responses at once, kind of stagger them out. So like, what can I learn, right? How can I refine the process? What can I change? What are different things I can take from this experience? What will I do different in the future? Okay, this thing stressed me out. How will I change it in the future? And to me, this is what personal development is about. And this video is probably like long-winded. And this time I'm talking about, my own personal situations instead of, it's kind of informative, right? But this is literally me putting to practice just a few of the different tools that I've learned. Whether it's everything from building resumes, interviewing, how to locate jobs online. What's the best websites? Do you use Indeed? What is it that you use? Do you use word of mouth? Do you reach out to people you know? Do you keep in contact with references? Do you have these people's information handy? Also, I felt bad reaching out to people. I also realized I don't want to inconvenience people. So for me, even just reaching out and be like, hey, would you mind talking to these people on my behalf? Which they were so gracious and wonderful. But that's how I realized, okay, I don't like being inconvenienced. I don't like, it's apparently how my actions impact other people is what gives me the most anxiety. But like I said, I think about this stuff a lot. So that's not, I don't think, the worst belief to have. Maybe I can find a different spot on that spectrum of balance, right? But I also don't want to be a person who doesn't care my actions impact other people. So, but that's also part of personal development. It's all these different things, who you are as a person, looking at like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If I'm trying to become a self-effectuated, self-activated, whatever it is, individual, working on these different levels of stability and socialization, and these, working my way to where I can even think about my internal beliefs and how I want to interact with the world and other people, besides developing just these survival skills of like having a full-time job with good health insurance and all this different stuff and a steady salary. Just because, hey, you don't know how the world's going to go, how the economy is going to go. I can't control politics in America, all these different things, right? So recognizing what is within my ability to change, where are my opportunities, okay? What can I change? What can I do? What are my resources? Who are my support systems? Who are the people I can speak to? Who are the people that can be a guide in these different areas, right? Just like I try and be for other people, because there's levels to all this stuff. So just like where I'm at in different things, there's people who are far more experts on me in each individual area. So I try and seek out these different people like Albert Ellis's and Gerard Egan's and Aaron Beck's of the world and different things, and read these different books, the Malcolm Gladwell, the 10,000 Hours, all these different things, to whether it's relationships, the 5 languages of love. Try and understand these different concepts and try and actually put them into practice, into action in my life, and then use these tools and then come back and share these experiences, because this is part of what it's about. So that's why I've been a bit busy kind of this summer. I haven't been able to record videos like I'd like to, and we'll see how with my new schedule and everything shakes out, how often I'll be able to record. But just remember, personal development is not about perfection. It's really about practice. It's about persistence. It's about refinement. That you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You're just trying to make it a little bit better every time. All right. Thank you and have a great day. And as always, if you're interested in personal one-on-one coaching, see, I'm not fantastic at plugging myself or advertising for myself. So it's another thing I'll eventually work on. Just like I don't use search engine optimization. I don't use the keywords, whatever. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to make this as authentic as possible all the time. But if you're interested in coaching, feel free to reach out through YouTube or my email. I'll link it down below on my website. All right. Thank you. Have a great day.